All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to our home, our kitchen, and our little island here. And we've started trying to change things up, being as this looks like it's going to be a regular thing. Brought a couple of chairs around here to the island where we're a little more comfortable, and I'm not having to, because I can't help myself. I want to dance and move around when I'm standing up. So we'll see if we can't cut that out. But we're bringing something special tonight. We are going to do a 51% wheat mash bill review on a whiskey instead of a bourbon. This is Bernheim. This is Bernheim Original, and it is 7 years aged in a small batch. And they do have, and I'm completely learning about this one from scratch. So, kind of go through this, and there's some cool information on this distillery and kind of its history. And then we'll go through the other stuff. But number one, this bourbon makes the claim that it's the first new American whiskey style since Prohibition. And with me saying that, once I get down to the years from where it started until where it is now, it's that makes it very interesting because, and I think it's got to do with the mash bill, and we'll go through all of that. But this is a 90 proof, can't talk tonight. A 90 proof Bernheim Original, and it is now owned by Heaven Hill Distillery. So the mash bill in total is 51% wheat, 39% corn, and 10% malted barley. And if that sounds familiar, it's because you're a bourbon drinker, and that 51% kind of nails the corn versus the wheat. So they patterned this after a bourbon and used a wheat mash bill. Of course, this one has no rye. And reading about how it's going to, I really cannot talk. The flavor profile tonight, I can't wait to open it because this is the first time I've had something like this. I mean, I got to travel, go to Germany, and even hit some small towns in America that had German restaurants, and they were actually bringing in their beer from Germany. And so I've had Halfweizen multiple times, good wheat beer, good cloudy beer, and often kind of sweet. And but this is the first time having this much wheat in a whiskey, and so I'm looking forward to trying this. So give you a little history. Heaven Hill bought the distillery in 1999. And this is now Heaven Hill's primary distillery after the 1996 distillery fire that destroyed their main distillery and 90,000 barrels of whiskey. So they actually started this brand I've got it here in the notes, I believe it's 2005 is when this came out. I think this is a 15-year startup on this brand. I know I've got it here somewhere, but I'm pretty confident on that one. It's 2005. So let's go through the, first off, price range. This is a $30 bottle. So we all know as whiskey and bourbon drinkers, $30. If it tastes good and goes down smooth, that's an incredible price for a fifth. Usually you're somewhere between that $30 to $60 range. And then you can get up into the ones that, get up in those hundreds of dollars, and that's just kind of crazy to me because I honestly have a feeling it's all about the barrel and how long you leave it in the barrel. Some of these companies are doing the same thing the other ones are doing, or the distilleries are doing, and I just can't see spending that kind of money for something to sip on. So let's go with the nose first while I open this. So kind of trying to think we're going to go here, but the nose is a cinnamon, a sweet fruit, and honey with floral undertones. So we'll see how that goes. This may be a screw top and it may be going a little low, but we'll figure it out. It's got two reaches here. Yeah, that feels more like it. Yeah, there we go. Nice cork. Just up high. Yeah, not bad. So let's get a little on the cork. we'll just do the nose part and then we'll walk through the flavor and finish. And you all know Betty, and of course now she doesn't have to run around here after kicking this off because we got cool little setup now to where we can actually hit record from across the room and Bluetooth everything. Makes it so much easier. So what are you smelling?
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon. I would have to agree on the nose, but of course, you know, we're going to put it in glass and let it breathe a little bit before we make that final determination. But yeah, it's definitely got a cinnamon. And it's kind of funny that was the first thing you picked out because as we get into flavor and finish, cinnamon definitely jumps out on the finish. It's supposed to have a really strong cinnamon finish. So let's go ahead and pour a little bit.
Pour me half of you a little bit.
Pour me half of my little bit. All right. So there's a half of my little bit. I'm usually kind of a two-finger guy on it, just in general. I mean, if this is good and it's a good sipping whiskey, and that's what we're going to find out, then I like, if I'm just going to pour it in the glass, I like about 2 or 3 fingers and walk around, go in the band room, do whatever, and sip a little. So, flavor profile. And flavor profile is supposed to be soft, sweet, and mellow with hints of vanilla, honey, berries, caramel, and spice with green apple and apricot. So that's a hell of a flavor profile.
Yeah, I like green apple and apricot.
I do too. I'm kind of hoping those stand out because I love the fact that out of a barrel you can get those flavors. And I went to 2 or 3 places. I wish I would have wrote them down because one of them is a great place for reviews. And next 2 weeks, when we do the next review, I will make sure and add these websites. But I usually go at least 2 places, look at reviews, and kind of get that. I'm still getting a lot of cinnamon.
It's a stronger ethanol.
Yeah, very strong alcohol, ethanol. Smells like you're fixing to start a race car. Which is always cool to me because now that I've started doing these and trying different ones and putting them in a glass and letting them breathe a little bit, kind of doing the whole thing right, it's kind of interesting that some of them have that strong smell, but yet when you taste it, you don't taste that strong alcohol flavor. It goes down pretty smooth. But this is a 90 proof, so I have a feeling it's going to have a punch. So we went through the nose. I'm not smelling so far anything other than the cinnamon. I'm not smelling floral or sweet fruit or summer fruits. I'm not getting that. So, and that's fine. I mean, there are people when they review these things, they just happen to have the type of nose and palate and so forth for picking out every little taste and every little flavor. I mean, they're the type of people you can make something with 9 spices in it, and they'd be able to tell you all 9 spices that they're tasting as they taste your food. It's incredible what they're able to do, and certainly not knocking them. It wasn't a knock on what they do. They actually can pick this stuff apart. All right, that's a little sweeter.
Still the cinnamon to me.
Yeah, it's still cinnamon, but it was cinnamon with like cinnamon on an apple maybe. Some of the ethanol is kind of dying down a little bit. All right, so let's just do the flavor profile part. Oh, Betty says, "Oh my God."
Uh-huh.
But for me, that was actually a very smooth sip. Cinnamon does hit first; it's there. But I'm waiting kind of on that finish. But I'm not going to discuss the finish until I take the shot. Because that way you get that whole mouth, you kind of get it on the back of your tongue, you kind of get it everywhere, and then it goes down. And it gives you a whole lot more of what you're supposed to be getting out of that finish. we'll discuss what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a medium length, very warm, elegant with toasted oak and fruit, a surge of cinnamon when you taste it, and that's exactly what we got. And then it's supposed to taper off to a really sweet flavor of toffee, honey, apples, and allspice. So, like I said, that's going to be interesting because of what they're saying here. That's going to be very interesting to see what we get when we do the shot. But just a few minutes to talk about distilleries in general. I did write one website down that I was reading today, thestreet.com. Go over there and check that website out because it's not so much about bourbon or bourbon reviews or whiskey reviews. It's the whiskey industry is in trouble. And it's in trouble partially because of tariffs and partially because of the inflation that's happening on their ingredients. And multiple of your distilleries that you may be drinking right now, maybe sitting on your shelf at home right now, are going under and filing bankruptcy. I hated to see that, but what has happened is because of these tariffs, no one else is buying whiskeys or bourbons from America and having them shipped over there because they're fighting the tariffs. And so bourbon is taking a hit because bourbon and whiskeys do a lot of overseas trade and up to Canada and so forth. So one of them that kind of breaks my heart because it's the one that we could afford when we were teenagers. Maybe we shouldn't have said that. Young adults. Young adults. Well, let's use young adults. We could afford to run down to the river and out into the woods and sit around a campfire and pick, and that was Jim Beam. Jim Beam is closing down its main distillery. They have not filed bankruptcy yet, according to anything I've been able to read, but they are starting to suffer from these tariffs and they're having to close down and lay off people. So I just wanted to make that mention. Jim Beam's still floating. If you're a Jim Beam drinker, they have multiple products now. Go out and support Jim Beam. Keep it from going under. They're an American tradition. I just wanted to kind of hang that out there to you guys.
We got ours back there.
Huh?
I said we got ours
Yeah,
back
we
there.
got a Jim Beam vanilla on the counter, and I just finished a Jim Beam 7.5 gallon. So, I mean, we drink Jim Beam here. It's definitely one of my mixers. I'll drink it straight, but it's definitely my ginger ale mixer. All right, so here we go with the shot. You just took another sip. Get it.
I didn't want to throw up on camera again.
Yeah, we do have to throw up on camera video. I mean, not literally, or you can see it, but she definitely headed to the bathroom, and I was sitting here and laughing and having a good time. But I'm going to tell you, there's an old school whiskey thing happening in my mouth right now. It almost went numb for a second. It's
Yeah,
like
my tongue did, yeah.
yeah, it's and that's old school whiskey. That's to do that. That's kind of a neat feeling. Even though the flavors are there, it's kind of like if I put something in my mouth right behind that, sitting here, had a sip or a shot, and I bit something, I wouldn't be able to taste what's coming next. It kind of deadens the palate. But in the back of my throat and on the back of my tongue, it was hard cinnamon and oak. Definitely. Both of those are there. But I'm not getting a charred oak, and never said that in the reviews that I read, that this went in a charred oak barrel.
But I ain't getting the fruit at all. Just just what you said, the oak and the cinnamon. But I mean, allspice does taste a lot like cinnamon.
Yeah, and there is, like, right there on the back of my tongue now that it's kind of went down, I'm getting an allspice and a sweetness. I'm not going to call it a fruit. I can't label it as apple or apricot or any of the things that are written in this, but it is a little sweet now. Now that it's gone, made its way down, that's kind of what I'm getting. And because of that effect, I'm not going to do another shot. I'm going to do another little sip. Just pour another. Okay, here we go. Just going to pour, I'm going to have Betty's little sip that she's got left. Because I do want to see, almost in my nasal passages, after it's passed by, I'm smelling apple. It's kind of weird. It's like like it's coming from the back side instead of coming from the glass. So here, just a little sip. Wash that around on my tongue real good. I want to see if that hits my. I want to make sure it's not a mental thing that I'm expecting apple, so all of a sudden I smelled apple. I wanted to do another little one and see.
Sitting in here, I smell apple.
Yeah, you're starting to smell it like in the room, like an aroma in the room, and which is kind of cool because it's not supposed to be in the nose profile, but it is kind of coming into the room, and you may be smelling it like I am. It may be you took your drink and it's kind of in your nasal passages now. Because my nose is a little stopped up tonight, a little bit of sinus and allergy. It's been humid as hell today here in Arkansas, and so having a little trouble catching the nose part of it, but it seems to be coming from the back side. And it's done it twice. It's definitely there, and it's definitely sweet after it settles. It's cinnamon, it's oak, it kind of burns a little bit, but as it settles down, it's a pretty smooth drink. And overall, like if you're just sipping, it's not anything you're gonna turn your nose up at it. I'm even gonna go with a little bit of licorice that I'm tasting. I'm getting a little anise, that flavor, that scent at the very finish of this. And no one that I've read has called out anise yet, but it's kind of there, at least on my palate. So let's do the rating scale from 1 to 5. We're comparing price point versus a good smooth drink to sit and sip it without having to have a mixer. And I'm going to go with a 4 out of 5 on this one, on that scale. This is definitely a sippable whiskey. I could definitely see myself pouring 2 or 3 fingers of this and going back there and playing drums or guitar or doing a live on TikTok or whatever it is I happen to be doing, and having this set to the side as something just to sip on as I'm doing that. It's not bad. If you really enjoy a spice on your tongue, a cinnamon, and kind of feel it to about right here, and then it kind of dies, but it's from about nose, mouth to about center of your chest. That cinnamon is there.
And then it warms your stomach.
Yeah, and it's just nice and warm after that. Like I said, nothing wrong with it. So that's it. You're getting a 4 on a whiskey, which is uncommon for us. We usually do the bourbons, but saw this sitting there, and I thought, man, we ought to try this. And just because it was so different, and then reading about it even made it that much more. You know, hearing the history, you know, that this started as their own company, the Bernheim company or distillery, and then it was bought out. It actually changed names one time. I can't remember that name. It changed names, and then it was bought out by Heaven Hill, and then Heaven Hill ended up moving their entire main production to this facility that they had purchased out due to a fire, and all of that was just kind of neat history to be able to read. So, yep, if you're into whiskeys and you're into the flavor profiles we've talked about tonight, I think this is a good one. And like I said, it's definitely not one I would turn my nose up at. If somebody asked me if I wanted a Jim Beam in a glass, 3 fingers, or a Burnham, they'll bring me a Burnham. And I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I'm pretty sure I am, but you know, you never know about last names or the family name. They may say I'm done this completely wrong, but
Bernheim?
yeah, it could be Bernheim. That sounds a little more Jewish, and I'm not sure how many Jewish distillers we had in the United States, even up to current. So I'm going with Burnham. That sounds a little more German, maybe even Canadian descent. You know, somewhere in that area. Sounds more German to me, and I'll have to look that up as to where the name actually came from. But like I said, I can't think of a whole lot of Jewish distillers in the United States. So, like I said, here's to you, glad you came hang out. Look out for our shorts. Look out for everything else we're going to do. And I'm going to make a short out of the one where she was talking about she spit it up in here and then had to go to the bathroom. I mean, she kind of blew it straight up towards the ceiling and then took off. I'm going to put a short out on that one, so be looking for it. And to all of you, happy holidays. This is the weekend after Christmas. We're shooting this, and so we're going into New Year's, and I hope you have a great New Year, and I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. And from our house to yours, hit subscribe, follow, share, and put us out there. Give us a hand. We'd appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys later.